Okay, let's dive in. We're looking at something pretty explosive today, really coming out of nowhere, it seems. A huge, frankly, unexpected success story from Africa. We're talking about AfroGold, the pilot projects for this new continent-wide gold-backed monetary system.
Exactly. And importantly, we're basing this on leaked internal documents, not, official announcements. Financial reports, diplomatic cables, internal memos, all obtained by Supreme Africa Breaking News. So our job here is really to cut through any spin and just look at the raw data. What does it actually mean?
And the headline finding, the thing that jumps out from all these different documents is just, wow, the AfroGold pilot is apparently performing 6 times better than anyone projected.
6 times. What the AO thought, optimistically, might happen by 2027. These leaks suggest it's happening right now, today, in 2025.
Which apparently has the IMF scrambling.
That's what the internal chatter suggests, yes. Running emergency simulations just to figure out the potential ripple effects on, well, everything, global capital flows. This isn't just some regional fintech project anymore. It looks like a major financial shift, and the established players seem to be struggling to keep up.
Okay, let's get specific. 6 times better sounds like, marketing speak almost. Where's that number coming from? The source is this AfroGold Central Integration Unit report.
That's the core quantitative source, yes. And it breaks down across several key performance indicators, or KPIs, and they all seem to be showing the same kind of exponential growth.
Right. So what are the actual metrics, and how do they compare to, say, the systems people use now?
Okay, first, settlement speed. Cross-border payments between the pilot banks, they're clearing in under 4.8 seconds.
Under 5 seconds.
Under 5 seconds. The original projection, the sort of cautious estimate, was closer to 30 seconds. So yeah, roughly 6 times faster than they planned for.
Okay, moving value between countries in under 5 seconds.
Yeah.
That's not just an improvement, that's a whole different way of doing things. How? Is it just better tech?
It's the architecture. The reports point to a proprietary ledger system, decentralized using dedicated APIs. It completely sidesteps the old correspondent banking network, the system that relies on multiple intermediary banks, usually Western ones, juggling dollars. That takes time. This is more like peer-to-peer value transfer, confirmed almost instantly.
Which makes sense for the speed. But speed isn't everything. Banks are usually slow to adopt new things, aren't they? Inertia is powerful.
Usually, yes. But not here, apparently. The adoption rate metric. 6.2 times higher than they forecast. Over 34 commercial banks are already actively integrating the AfroGold APIs. And these aren't tiny outfits. We're talking significant players getting ready.
Hold on. If they're beating forecasts by that much, 6 times.
Yeah.
Why were the initial predictions so low? Were they just being super cautious, or did people genuinely doubt this could work?
The memos suggest, well, probably a bit of both. Deep-seated conservatism about rolling out something this complex continent-wide, plus maybe some skepticism about the tech itself. But it seems the sheer usefulness, the utility of the system just blew past all that caution, which you see in the next metric, transaction volume.
Okay.
They processed more transactions in the first 90 days than they had forecast for the entire 3 years of the pilot.
90 days. Wow. Okay, so they smashed their long-term target in 1 quarter.
Smashed it. And why? Look at the other metrics. Cost efficiency. Average transaction cost dropped by 72%. 72. That's way beyond even their most optimistic scenarios.
72% cheaper.
And finally, user retention. Businesses that tried it, 89% kept using it daily. It's sticky. It's not just a novelty. It's becoming essential.
Numbers like that, if they weren't from leaked internal reports, you'd dismiss them as hype. Did the AU's own analysts comment on what this actually means long-term?
There's a note in the margin of one report attributed to an analyst codenamed Dollar Profit. His assessment. The results are beyond disruptive. Coming from an internal finance guy, beyond disruptive isn't just jargon. It signals they see this as a fundamental challenge, not just an upgrade.
Okay, utility seems to be the driving force. Let's make that concrete. We talk about 4.8 seconds, 72% cost savings.
Yeah.
What does that feel like for a business owner in, say, Nairobi or Dakar?
Right, the real-world impact. The reports highlight this jump from farms to factories, like Kenyan coffee exporters used to wait 3, maybe 5 days for payments from Ethiopia. Now, minutes.
And that cash flow difference is everything for a business like that.
Absolutely. It changes the whole operational cycle. Capital isn't tied up for days just waiting. It's back, ready for the next batch, accelerating their whole business velocity. It's huge.
What about smaller manufacturers? The ones often hit hardest by currency conversion fees.
Yeah, the reports mention small firms in Senegal settling directly in AfroGold. The key phrase they use is zero FX loss. Avoiding those mandatory dollar conversions, the spread losses. That can save them 5, maybe 8% on a transaction. That goes straight to their viability.
And there was even a logistics benefit mentioned. Faster payments, speeding up shipping.
Yeah, that was interesting. A Mozambican importer reported shaving 10 days off his shipping cycle. Because the payment cleared before the goods even docked, he could get customs paperwork sorted, trucks lined up, all while the ship was still incoming. So Afrogold is effectively giving them back both time and money.
That kind of efficiency, it makes sense why this isn't just staying with small players. The big banks must be noticing, even if they're quiet about it.
And that's where it gets really sensitive in these leaks. Major commercial banks, South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, Morocco, the big financial anchors, they're apparently deep in back-end testing now. Publicly, silence, probably avoiding regulatory heat or, geopolitical pressure. But internally, over 40 financial institutions have signed NDAs, non-disclosure agreements.
They know they can't afford to be left behind. If this thing offers that kind of speed and cost saving, staying out isn't really an option, is it? Even if they have to keep it quiet for now.
There's a fantastic quote in the files attributed to someone they call Chairman Shadow, described as a key economic insider. He apparently said revolutions happen not with a press conference, but with a system so efficient that banks can't afford not to join. That sheer utility, that's the engine driving this.
Well, if the banks can't afford not to join, you can bet Washington and Brussels are starting to get very interested. What do the diplomatic cables say about the view from the West? Sounds like we're hitting panic mode.
The cables definitely confirm alarm bells are ringing. Officials in D.C. and Brussels are quoted using terms like alarming and potentially destabilizing to the global financial order. They're not seeing this as just regional competition anymore. It's framed as a systemic risk, specifically to the dominance of the dollar.
I saw one EU memo mentioned was particularly direct about the threat.
It was. It stated that the system's speed and, crucially, its adoption rate pose a long-term threat to dollar liquidity and African trade. Think about it. If huge volumes of intra-African trade simply stop needing dollars as the middleman currency, well, that diminishes a major lever of U.S. global influence. Sanctions, monitoring flows, it all gets harder.
It really sounds like Western governments were completely caught off guard by the speed of this. They expected a slow, bureaucratic crawl.
Totally miscalculated. There's an analogy used in one of the cables that captures their shock perfectly. They thought Afrogold would be a, quote, baby goat. Manageable, maybe even cute. Instead, they feel like they woke up and found a full-grown lion licking its paws outside the SWIFT headquarters. The lion is definitely out.
And it's not staying within Africa, is it? That's probably where the anxiety really spikes in D.C.
Right. The leaks confirm pilot transactions have already happened with partners in Brazil, India, the UAE. Major economies all interested in direct trade with Africa, especially in commodities, without the dollar toll booth. And one source warns, once a major trade corridor flips away from the dollar, the data suggests it almost never switches back.
So given how seriously this is being taken now, what are the countermeasures the AU expects?
There's mention of a confidential internal advisory called Protocol Black. It warns staff to expect potential Western pushback, things like political pressure on participating central banks, maybe targeting the fintech companies building the rails, even legal challenges via the WTO or similar bodies. But, and this is crucial, Protocol Black concludes that the momentum is now essentially irreversible. The system's own success, its utility, has built its own defense.
That idea of irreversible momentum, it leads to the bigger picture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This isn't just about currency anymore. The leaks talk about a whole new economic operating system.
Exactly. It's an entire ecosystem they're building. Leaked presentations show prototypes for several layers. There's Afrotrade, which is the core gold-backed settlement for import-export we've discussed. But then there's Afropay. That's designed as a continent-wide retail payments network. The ambition to basically replace Visa and MasterCard across Africa.
Replace Visa, MasterCard, that's a monumental goal. The infrastructure alone.
Huge ambition. But Africa has the scale and the need, perhaps. They also map out AfroGrid, a government platform linking Afrogold to things like tax collection, paying out grants, public procurement, streamlining state finances. And underpinning it all is AfroVault, a system for managing the physical gold reserves backing the currency, distributed, secure storage.
And the timeline for all this is speeding up, too. What was supposed to take years might now be continental in, 18 months?
That's the accelerated roadmap, yeah. Pushing for continental rollout by 2026. They're even talking about linking Afrogold wallets to national ID systems and issuing physical Afrogold debit cards by the end of 2025. It feels like a race, Embed it deep into daily life before external forces can effectively block it.
And maybe the most surprising part of the adoption story, something nobody predicted, is the diaspora effect.
Yeah, completely unexpected, according to the memos. Soon after the pilot wallets went live, quietly, over 1.8 million users from the African diaspora signed up for beta access. They're using it for remittances, sending
Mm.
money home, but bypassing Western Union, MoneyGram, all the traditional expensive channels.
That completely flips the script on remittances, I think one memo called it.
The reverse colonial effect,
Hmm.
yeah. For perhaps the first time, Africans abroad are using African financial infrastructure to move money globally, not relying only on Western systems. And according to Protocol Black, this success isn't just seen as economic. It's framed internally as the economic phase of liberation.
Which brings us back to that core finding. The pilot's performance, that 6 times factor, hasn't just proved the tech works. The conclusion in these papers is that it's proved inevitability.
That really is the bottom line from these documents. Yes, Western governments are reportedly discussing countermeasures, sanctions, maybe trying to launch a rival G7 digital currency. But the sources suggest why those might fail. AfroGold isn't built on fiat promises or trust in one government stability. It's built on physical gold, real assets.
The old standard, made new.
Right, and that makes it much harder to pressure. You can't just freeze accounts the same way, as one insider reportedly put it, very simply. You can freeze a dollar account, but you can't freeze a gold bar sitting in an African vault. That physical reality changes the whole power dynamic if there's a confrontation.
So if this continues on this trajectory, if AfroGold really scales up this fast, it's not just challenging the dollar or the euro, it's challenging the whole global financial architecture we've known since, what, the 1940s.
It fundamentally challenges what a reserve currency is. It could shift central bank holdings, change how commodities are priced globally, potentially tilt the entire center of economic gravity southward in a way we haven't seen in modern history. So based on this data, these leaks, the question you're left with is, could this really be it? Could AfroGold become the Bretton Woods moment of the global south? A genuine shift in the